Hey, this is Mr. Clemens, and today we're going to be finishing up with sentence types. We've talked about simple sentences, we've talked about compound sentences, and so today we're going to talk about complex sentences and then compound complex sentences. So basically, a complex sentence is when an independent clause is joined with at least one dependent clause. Okay, so right here we have the boy wins a lot. Actually, you know what? Let's jump ahead here. We'll add to that later. So here we go. The boy wins a lot. Independent clause. Just by itself, that would be a simple sentence. But if we say the boy wins a lot because he practices hard, we now have independent clause plus subordinate clause. Okay, we have he, subject, practices, predicate, but we have this subordinating conjunction, so it's a subordinate clause. So independent clause plus a subordinate clause makes a complex sentence. Okay, now complex sentences can be rearranged. We don't always have to start with an independent clause. Okay, so because the boy practices hard, he wins a lot. Okay, we could just put a period there. That would be a complex sentence. But this is an example of a complex sentence that has more than one dependent clause. So because the boy practices hard, he wins a lot, which frustrates the other kids. So, comma there. Anytime you start a sentence with a subordinate clause, you have to have a comma after it. Okay? So that first example, if we say the boy who practices hard wins a lot. That's also a complex sentence because what we have here is a relative clause, relative pronoun clause, and that's another type of subordinate clause. So we have the boy wins a lot, independent, and then we have our relative pronoun clause, which is also subordinate. So independent plus subordinate equals complex sentence. A compound complex sentence is made up of at least two independent clauses and at least one dependent clause. So really, this is just anytime you have a complex sentence and you can add another independent clause to it, you now have a compound complex sentence. Okay, so Brad, who is very determined, subordinate clause right here. So Brad, who is very determined, will work hard to win. Now, take that out, and we have Brad will work hard to win. That's an independent clause. Okay, so that is an independent clause. But you leave what we had, Brad, who is very determined, will work hard to win. So right now we have a complex sentence. Okay, then comma conjunction. Okay, which shows us that we're about to see another independent clause. Brian is probably going to beat him. That by itself could be its own sentence, independent clause. So we have Brad will work hard to win, independent clause. Brian is probably going to beat him, independent clause. And then we have our relative clause, or our subordinate clause up here. Okay, so let's change this a little bit. There's a lot of ways that we can have a compound complex sentence. They're complicated. They can be written a variety of ways that make the same point. So here's just a different way of saying the same thing. Brad will work hard to win, independent clause. Here's our subordinating conjunction right here. So this is our marker signaling that, hey, we've got a subordinate clause. So subordinate clause right here, and then Brian is probably going to beat him, independent clause. This is a very typical example of a compound complex sentence. Okay, again, they can be rearranged. Subordinate clause comes first. Note that we have our comma here. Okay, since Brad is very determined, comma, he will work hard to win. However, now this is a new way of connecting two independent clauses. Semicolon, conjunctive adverb, words like however, therefore, thus, also, or even phrases like on the other hand all work as subjunctive adverbs. Okay, so we can use the subjunctive adverb to connect two independent clauses. He will work hard to win, however, Brian is probably going to beat him. Okay, again, two independent clauses plus a subordinate clause, at least one subordinate clause, and we have a compound complex sentence. Okay, the cat that scratched me was put down, and it made my sister sad. I'm not sure why this one's on here, but either way, it is a compound complex sentence. Okay, the cat was put down, independent clause. That scratched me, subordinate or relative clause. It made my sister sad. And we're using a comma conjunction to connect these two independent clauses. So I hope that makes sense. That's complex sentences and compound complex sentences in a nutshell. So again, thanks for watching.